Before the break, we met Sam Drummond, an Aussie lawyer and dad to a beautiful 2-year-old named Gwen. His is a remarkable story shared by 15% of Aussie families who have a parent with a disability.
That is a very high statistic, Darcy, yet we rarely hear these stories, and books reflecting their experience aren't exactly bursting off the bookshelves. So Eliza Hull, a musical artist, writer and mum of 2, decided to create her own. The result is We've Got This, that profiles 25 Aussie parents and their journey to become mums and dads. And Eliza joins us now. Hi, Eliza.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Eliza, you edited and contributed the book. How did the idea first come about?
It really came about due to lived experience. So I have a disability, a physical disability. It's called Charcot-Marie-Tooth, and I've had that since I was 5 years old. And when I fell pregnant with my daughter 7 years ago now, I just noticed that there wasn't enough representation of disabled parents in the media or in, the many books that you get given. I couldn't find any story that represented mine or other stories of people with disability. So it came from that. It was that lack of representation.
Can you tell us about your disability and how it impacts your choices and the way you parent?
Yeah, so as I said, I've got a physical disability, so it affects the way I walk. So I walk with a different gait. I also fall over regularly and have muscle loss and sensation loss. I'm also in pain and constantly fatigued. The way that it affects my parenting is I have to be quite creative and flexible in the way that I parent. So I'm always thinking of ways, well, how can I do this in a safe way? So getting downstairs, for instance, my beautiful son, who's 1 year old, we do that in a safe way, whether that's sitting down and going down the stairs one by one, getting him out of the car. I have to lean up against the car and, leverage for support and then pull him out of the car. The way that I guess I parent is that I think by being a parent that comes from a diverse background is I'm showing them that diversity and disability is actually what makes this world a beautiful place. So I think that in actually being a parent with disability, I'm teaching my children that.
You write in your book that being a disabled parent is a rebellious act. What do you mean by that?
I guess, I want to state that I don't think it should be a rebellious act, but it is. And that's because the first time that I ever went in to tell a medical professional that I was wanting to have a child, I was met with discrimination. I was met with, are you sure you should do that? I can pass my disability on, that's a 50% chance. So he said, do you want to go through genetic counselling so you don't pass on your disability? And really just said that I shouldn't be a parent. If I had have listened to that, I wouldn't have the 2 gorgeous children that I have today. And I'm a great parent. As I said, I bring diversity into our home. And so I think it's a rebellious act because many parents are faced with this discrimination. For instance, in the book, there are 2 deaf parents that when they were at the hospital and their child had a hearing test when they were a baby, they were congratulated because their child was hearing and said, they're not like you. So it's those kind of, it's quite hurtful when you're told that your child shouldn't be like you.
Yeah.
There are many times where parents are constantly discriminated against, and especially in the medical system. So I think it is a rebellious act, but I don't think it ought to be.
Yeah. So as parents, we're naturally worried about being judged. I mean, how magnified is that for parents that are coping with the disability?
It's huge, I think, especially for parents with intellectual disability. So for parents with, as I said, intellectual disability, many times when they have a child, straight away, without actually seeing whether that parent is capable, child protection is wrong straight away. And children are getting taken away from their parents, and support is just not being given to these parents. We all need support. Parenting can be quite isolating. So for parents with intellectual disability, they just need extra support.
It's awful to consider the ignorance that's out there, that people make assumptions without knowing anyone's situation or their stories or what's going on in their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the book actually really shows that every parent in the book is extremely capable. And I think as people with disability, we constantly have to be creative and flexible and think of ways to get into a building. For me, I'm constantly having to navigate, am I going to be able to get into that building? And so I was already a creative thinker and really just ready to be a great parent.
Tell us about some of the contributors in the book and what story they tell.
Goodness, there's so many incredible stories. Ones that I guess, really left their mark on me is Deborah Kennahan. So she's a parent that is short-statured, and she speaks about the experience of just discrimination. So her and her daughter both have dwarfism, and when they're out in the community, they're stared at, they're laughed at, they're pointed at, they're on the street, people take photos of them without their permission. And one of the stories in there is when she was in the bank and she met just a random stranger, and this random stranger was a parent and there with their child. And their child just was curious and said, "Why is that lady short?" And the mother said, "It's because she hasn't eaten her vegetables. And if you don't eat your vegetables, you're going to end up like her." And it's just discrimination and just horrible attitudes. So those kind of stories just really have affected me because of, I guess, I just feel for these parents. I think other stories like Leah and Ben Van Poppel, they're two parents that are blind and they have a child that is sighted. And just the incredible creative ways that they mixed formula as parents that are blind, or ways that they take their baby out in the community in a pram that they tow behind them when they have their guide dog. I guess it just really shows again just how these parents are creative and find ways to be incredible parents.
You mentioned at the start of our conversation that you were searching for literature. You've gone and written the book. What impact are you hoping to have?
The impact that I hope is that I really hope that it goes into the spaces that it's needed the most, which is the hospitals, maternity health nurses, maternity wards. I feel like this is where we really need to see attitudes changed. I also just hope that non-disabled people read it because these are incredible human stories. They're really interesting and thought-provoking. I also hope that it reaches people with disability that are contemplating becoming parents and that may have been told that they shouldn't be a parent. I just really hope that it shows them that it's possible.
The title of the book is We've Got This. It's available online and in bookstores now, and you can check out Eliza's ABC podcast of the same name. Eliza, it's been great to meet you. It's an inspiring story, and I'm sure you're going to have a massive impact on so many people. Thanks for sharing your story today.
Thanks so much for having me.